So the pose we're gonna take the longest probably today is our Shavasana, and then we'll do a short meditation afterwards. And I only have a couple things in mind, and we've got a little bit of requests for shoulders and wrists, so we'll probably start there. Let's find child's pose. Find a comfortable child's pose. You have your blankets. You can bring one under your knees, or you can bring one under the feet. You can bring one under the arms. You can put one over yourself. Just find a comfortable child's pose for 5-10 rounds of breath to help you get settled in. This focus around one of my favorite sutras, Hatha Yoga Anushasanam. And the practice begins now is, I think, one of the most potent qualities, and it's the first thing in the Yoga Sutra, and it asks us to place ourselves in the moment as a student, right? As an active practitioner. There's a lot of choice and power in that. So Hatha Yoga Anushasanam, let's place ourselves here now. Offer yourselves that. I like child's pose because it closes you in, kind of turn down, close the eyes. Let the ground beneath you support you as you fold in. The arms can be beside you, reaching back. They can be out in front of you. Let's just take a few more breaths. And then slowly exhale, just press those hips back a little further. We'll inhale, walk the hands over to the right. Use the exhale to settle into the side bend. Take a deep breath into the left side body, and allow the right side to soften as you exhale. You'll breathe in, come through center. As you exhale, press those hips back. And then your inhale walks it over to the other side. So walk it to the left. Use the exhale to soften into the stretch. Take the inhale, breathe into the right ribs. The expansion, and then the exhale. Let that left side body soften. You'll inhale back through center. And one last time, let's press back to that hips heavy, a little effort in the hands to deepen the low back stretch. You'll come on up to tabletop pose as you breathe in. And, maybe move the hips around a little. The chin to chest, you can take ear to shoulder, roll around. Find any organic movements. As you place yourself here and now, what do you notice? What do you feel? Do you need a little more room as you come out of that pose? Do you feel pretty good as you are? Just a little stillness. Now, placing ourselves right now, hands under the shoulders. Let's take the fingers out towards the outer edges of your yoga mat. So the wrists will face each other, the inner wrists will, and you're going to press the hands down into the ground. Looking forward, I want you to take 5 circles here with the torso, like you're stirring up hot. And keep pressing the ground away with the hands. And once you take 5 circles in one direction, you'll take it in the other direction. Keep looking forward. You can look even forward and down, but try not to look underneath yourself. Your shoulders will start to round. So really keeping spacious in the shoulders. And then slowly, keeping the wrists underneath the shoulders, you'll turn the fingers back towards your thighs, your knees, as much as you can. So it might be more like the corners of your mat. And one hand might feel like it's got a little more rotation than the other. So be patient with it. Once again, I want you to plant the hands down and look forward. And it's more crucial here, I have you look forward, keep the chest, collarbone, shoulder heads opening, and then if you'd like, you can take the hips back for 3 breaths in. Out, keep looking forward. You can also just be right over your shoulders. That could be plenty, okay? Breathe in. Breathe out. One more inhale. And then as you exhale, flipping one hand down, one palm at a time, and one palm up at a time. So both hands, palms up, fingers stay back towards the knees, looking forward. Once again, breathe in. And as you exhale, gently, maybe the hips shift back slightly. You can stay right here, opening the back of the wrist, or you can start to curl the fingers up. Notice if you start to sink or slide in your shoulders, just gently press away. Take a deep breath in. A long breath out. Release the fingers. And then gently, one hand at a time. Let's tuck our toes, okay? Give those arches a little love here. And roll those wrists out. Flap the wrists, the hands. With your toes tucked, your hips on your heels if you can, and that blanket might be handy, okay? You can add that in right above the heels. You can fist bump yourself here. So take your fist, actively fist bump. This is going to get into the forearms a little bit. So now that we've worked the wrists, let's climb up the arms a little. And back of the hands, reach forward. And let's stay here for 5 inhales and exhales. So you're actively trying to straighten your arms, bringing the back of your hands forward. You can't see that, that's, yeah. So we're pressing, it's a nice stretch through the forearms, back of the wrists. Take a deep breath out. Notice if you're clinging, tension. Inhale. I think the most student-like thing we do is check in with ourselves. We slow down and we observe. We're curious. I think curiosity is one of those things about being a student, right? So remaining curious. What are we learning? What are we observing? What's happening right now? And you'll exhale, bring those hands in. One more time, shake those wrists out. You can come off of your toes. You can untuck your feet and come down. The knees are getting a lot of compression, but it's because we're going to stay in a lot of extended poses today. And once you're done there, you'll actually grab your blankets. Okay, one of them is to go, you're gonna want it eventually to roll into like a burrito or behind the knees. And one of them kind of open later for Shavasana for the top of your head. But right now, I want you to take them both. If you have your 2 blankets or if you have a bolster and a blanket, you can stack them. You're gonna lay down on your butts, your backs, and you're gonna lift your hips when you bend your knees and slide that right underneath your butt. I think I'm just trying to say the word butt a lot. So place the blankets there to support the hips, and you can extend the legs long and reach the arms overhead. So kind of opening the shoulders, softening the feet, and let the blankets do all the work. How high your blankets stack up is up to you. I encourage you to do a flat fold as you stack your blankets instead of like go round burrito roll. So we have the 2 blankets. If you have other props instead, a block can always be used in its place. But with the restorative class, I like to think softer props, so we can melt into them a little bit more. The blocks have that firmness, the edges to them, and we're really in R&R, that's rest and reset. We open into the pose. So settle in. We'll be here for several minutes. Pay attention to the breath. Actively into the seat of the student. So if you're staying curious, you're able to bring curiosity into the moment. What are you observing? What are you learning? What are you seeing? Once you start to make observations, does the mind wander further? Which way does it go? Just staying curious with each of our thoughts as they evolve and gently bringing ourselves back when we can. Allow your breath to be natural. Steady breath in. And that full breath out. You can take a scan of the body as you hold this shape. Notice anywhere that has maybe become tense out of habit, or when that mind wanders, we mentally move into our physiology. That psychology physiology connection, right? We talk about in class sometimes, is it's hard to separate, and a hard line there. So they affect one another. Our thoughts affect the body, and our body affects the way we think. So where are you feeling things, and maybe where aren't you feeling things? What's gone kind of numb or vacant? Any sensation? Just checking in with checking with our experience. If you're working with an injury, it might be a highlight in your posture, right? Or if you have a tendency, you might notice something lingering there. I've been feeling a lot of tension in my shoulder from carrying children around the house and nursing. So different seasons of our lives carry different experiences, and our body will reveal those things to us if we can kind of slow down. Open up. Remember, you always have your breath. Find that steady in and that exhale out. We're more than halfway through this pose, so you've got this. You're here, you're now. Make it as relaxing as you can for the last little bit. You can start to elongate the breath here. So even by paying attention to it, the breath should naturally grow a bit. So start following the inhale from the bottom of the navel up to the collarbone. Feel the exhale. Allow yourself to kind of melt in the props to do a little bit more work. Maybe if you notice anywhere that tension's crept in, see if you can soften that. Let it go. Breathe in. Breathe out. And if our legs are long, if you've kept your legs bent, it's great. You can walk your feet in if you've extended your legs. Feel each footprint as it comes in. Keep the support there as much as you can and the props underneath you. And then everyone, feeling your head and shoulders really press into the ground, your feet firmly on the ground. Start to lift your hips up. And you'll gently drag your props, your blankets aside. Whatever you're using here to support the hips, just set them off beside you. You're laying on your backs. You're going to come to your hips down, but keeping your feet planted as you lower your hips down. I want you to walk them further apart, maybe outside the width of your hips, and then allow your inner knees to connect. So allow them to buckle in. Then using the arms to get a stretch for the shoulders, you're just going to give yourself a big hug around the chest. This is just to open up that upper back. It might be hard to reach for opposite shoulder blades, right? We're here. You can kind of roll your fingers back a little bit, scoot them back, walk them back, crawl them back. And take a couple breaths with this first arm on top here. Notice where you feel it as you inhale. Exhale, soften. Keeping those feet on the ground. Feel the curves of the spine. Breathe in. Breathe out. And as you inhale, slowly soften the arms, maybe roll the wrists. And as you exhale, hug on with opposite arm on top. Inhale. And exhale. Maybe wiggle those hands back a little further. Walking the fingers back closer to the shoulder blades. Inhale. Feel the back of your heart press into the ground. And then exhale. Then you'll slowly let the arms fall apart. So you're going to walk your feet in together and let your knees fall apart. So now you'll walk the feet close together. Allow the knees to soften out to the side. Take a long breath in. A full breath out. Empty completely as you exhale. And let's breathe in for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you'll hold. Exhale out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold empty, just here for a moment. Really make it that intentional hold. And then inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to hold. Not quite a balanced, fully balanced breath. And exhale. Let it all go. Letting it be long. Feel your ribs draw in. Your belly button fall to your spine. And then placing one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Let's just find 5 cycles of breath here. We started in child's pose, so opening ourselves up in counter to that, right? That downward folding in, and now we let the back body rest and let the front body open. But so give that breath an anchor. So feel the fingers stretch one hand into the other as the inhale grows. And that top hand softens, the chest softens, and then the bottom hand softens, the fingers might gently draw closer together. Please stretch them out. Take that full 5 up and down. Anything that kind of creeps in as you're trying to bring awareness, that focused awareness, take note of it. What do you observe in this here and now? And then finally, deciding for yourself how to land in your final Shavasana. You can take one of the blankets and bring it just under the head, even the tip top of your shoulders. And the other blanket, you might just roll it under the backs of the knees. So you can find a little rest. I even like a little bit at the top of the blanket, just fold it underneath the base of the skull. So there's even a subtle lift. You can create a little micro tuck in your chin so the lengthen the neck, or the neck can lengthen. That helps us kind of downward regulate. But make this the most comfortable, supportive pose you can. So put on socks, throw on a sweatshirt, bring a blanket up over the body, cover yourself up. The nice thing about these home practices, or where you're doing it, from, is to make it work for you. So add those things in. We're not going to spend quite as long as I maybe said earlier, but we'll be here for a while. So get comfortable. Our body notices when it's out of symmetry. So when you slow down and you start to pay attention, if one hand is slightly higher than the other, or one piece of us is, left to right, a lot can feel a little different. You may need to adjust that, or the mind can fixate on it. So give yourself that space. Know that it's part of the tendencies of our human existence is to feel those little things, those subtle shifts. So if it feels like one foot's, sticking out under the blanket, or one side of your pillow is a little more lumpy than the other, just kind of adjust accordingly and then get settled in. Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Now begins the practice of yoga. I find this pose is our most accessible pose. Hopefully we're sleeping every day, right? I mean, if you're a parent out there, blessings upon you. I'm not sure what sleep is these days. But no, sleep, right? We lay down, we go to rest. How intentional do we take that? Do you have like sleep hygiene, sleep practices? We have something like this that we apply so regularly. What can we check in with now? We take the shape as you lay down. And though this year the holidays have been a bit different, there's still some of that energy around us, right? We can find ourselves doing many things, maybe out of habit. A few weeks ago, we talked about patterns. So what patterns, what habits do you carry with you? If you think about what you feel like when you do something, when you're just rested, like when you show up rested, what is the quality of that? What is the sensation of that? Does it bring up, bring to mind, bring to body? And someone said it, right? There's nothing quite like being rested. just not showing up rested to something. There's just powerful peace and freedom in it. So give yourself the space to rest. Let go of the breath, let go of the effort. The mind wanders, it wanders, bring it back. Stay curious. When you find yourself off in a different place, a different time, be gracious, be generous, stay curious. Now begins the practice of yoga. Just remember that the intention to arrive now, the choice is to arrive now. Um, it's first with our thoughts. And so just keep bringing yourself back. And that's the practice. That's the being the student of the moment. That's our yoga right now. So when you wander off, these thoughts, these desires, these memories, anywhere we go, they serve a purpose. They're they're there. Um, but are they necessary now? How can you let go maybe a little more, rest a little deeper after you come back? I'll keep an eye for you on the time. I know that it's hard for us sometimes to just rest, right? To be. So do what you need as needed. The little thought is Judith had told us, if you have 20 minutes practice, do a 20-minute Shavasana. It's because really only 5 minutes of that is for the pose, I think. The idea is that it takes about 15 minutes for the average person to relax, to like truly relax. Because we have these thoughts. 90% of our thoughts are recycled. So we perpetuate being in these thoughts. It takes us so long to relax that by the time we get there, there's only about 5 minutes to really be in the pose. The rest is essential to all the rest of our effort, our action, or orientation in the world around us. But you might need something else now. So, you're allowed to adjust as needed. It's always that space. The practice is your own, right? You are the student. So do what you need, but we're still here we're about halfway done with the pose. We're a little more than halfway done. I'll keep an eye on the time. You stay put if you can and breathe. As you're resting, you might want to take one of those audible exhales every so often, or that long sighing exhale. Physically, that tension might creep in as we move into thoughts and we move into habits. Even as we lay here still. That audible exhale can trigger a little deeper surrender in the physical body and that energetic release we sometimes need to physically let go. Start to pay attention to your breath. We hone in on the inhale. Follow it from the navel into the chest, into the collarbone, the top of the shoulders. Allow the exhale to soften. Follow it down your back ribs, your mid-low back. Breathe in. Feel yourself expand here in this moment, in this time, physically, energetically, taking up space, and then exhale that counter, the release. Feel yourself melt into this moment, maybe a little further physically, energetically. And a few more breaths as you just follow the inhale up the navel, through into the torso, up the torso, into the collarbone, even into like the neck and shoulders and the jaw. So that energetic expansion down into your low back as you release through the exhale, the pelvis, the hips. So even though physically the breath might just move in our lungs, energetically you may feel that further out. See if you can soften the space around the arches of your feet, the ankles. Soften the muscles, the calf muscles, and around the shin bones. You can soften the back of your knees, your quadriceps, your hamstrings, your femur, your thigh bone, all of those things relax a little deeper. Feel your hip flexors and your glutes, the outside of your hips, the back of your hips melt in and release. So your whole body, your whole lower body relax. Feel your fingers soften, the back of your hands, the palms, the wrists, the forearm muscles, around the elbow and the elbow creases. Love that to soften. Your biceps, your triceps, your upper arm, into the armpits and the tops of the shoulders, outer parts of the shoulders. It all relaxes. Release your low back, your mid back, the back of your heart, your upper back and neck. Feel your whole body relaxing. Allow the jaw to soften, the cheeks. The inner creases of your eyes are heavy. The outer creases of your eyes are heavy. Your brows soften. Your forehead softens. Your scalp, your skull, your brain. Feel yourself relax, release, let go. Take a deep breath in. And a full breath out. And just as slowly as we started the scan from the feet up through the crown of the head, bring that awareness. Maybe start to just wiggle the toes. And then curl the toes back, drawing the heels forward, maybe a subtle stretch in the arch, pointing the toes, stretching the tops of the feet, the front of the ankles, rolling the ankles really intentionally, taking it out to your fingers, stretching them out and contracting them into the wrists. Maybe the elbows bend and extend, or stretch the arms long overhead. Find yourself awakening with intention with each piece as you stay where you are in time, right? Physically moving, but here you are right now. Stay curious with the experience, what feels good, what you want to do a little while longer. And in the next 5 breaths or so, work onto your side. So really have time. In 5 breaths. I really mean 5 rounds of breath. So 5 inhales and 5 exhales. Their breath is really long. That's plenty. That's so much time to do whatever you need. Even if they're kind of short and shallow, they can, you have plenty of time to come onto your side. Whichever side feels good for you. Hugging the knees in might feel right. And eventually, from your side, just take a deep breath in, a full breath out. And after all that work to release, you can keep from that intentional contraction and tension creeping in. Really use your hands, really press that top hand into the ground. So if you're on your right side, that left hand presses into the ground. If you're on your left side, the right hand presses into the ground. Press them into the ground. Support yourself as you come up. Use the ground beneath you. Grab your blankets to sit on top of. Really finding this intentionally, planning ourselves into this pose here and now. With a little bit of curiosity, maybe a blanket underneath the knees kind of feels good. You can tuck one in front of the shins. So there's a little support there for the legs. And once you're here, keep the eyes closed or gently blink them open and softly focus them. We'll walk the hands out to your sides to sit up a little taller. Let's just let that right hand stay on the ground, reach your left arm up, and use the exhale to bend. Breathe into the left side. Exhale, soften the right. Think about that first child's pose we took into the bend. Breathe in to expand, soften as you exhale. And then come through center. Just take the inhale, sit up tall, let both hands find the ground. And breathe out, just here, seated. Left hand stays down, right hand can reach up, and then exhale to bend. Feeling the opening from right hip to right wrist, even right fingers. Using the exhale to soften into the stretch a bit more. And then one more time, inhale, sit up tall. And you'll slowly find the hands in a comfortable place for you. So your pelvis is, if you're sitting on the back of your hips, like the heel of your butt, I want you to kind of tilt and tuck that tailbone to maybe even explore that a little. You're trying to sit right on your sit bones down, and the crown up high, finding the center of your pelvis. And the hands can rest however you like. So palms can be down on the knees, the back of the hands can be on the legs. Sometimes it feels good to just rest one hand on top of the other with the palm facing up. Notice where you go, what you need. Take a deep breath in and a full breath out. And if the eyes are open, maybe gently closing them. We're not here for very long. This short meditation today. As you stay curious to this moment, what do you observe? Where do you observe it? In the thoughts, in the body, is it both? Is it the past? Is it the future? Remaining curious with ourselves and how we are right now. Maybe the most curious experience of them all is, can we just be? And we practice simply being. By that, letting go of the rights, the wrongs, the good, the bad. Observing ourselves as we are, how we are, remaining open to that. Let's take a deep breath in and a full breath out. Allow the palms to meet over the heart. A dip of the chin towards the chest. Value and gratitude. This practice, this ancient practice reminding us of a union deep within. A union in the moment as we are. And then simply bowing forward to seal your practice. Namaste.